we are in trouble. And if they're willing to do it now, they'll be willing to do it later.
Oh, a faction. It was a faction. Well, we have a faction now. Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, Lindsey Graham. Well, it turns out that Republicans weren't really hurt all that much in the 2014 midterms by that shutdown, as many predicted. And the only thing most people remembered about the Ted Cruz filibuster was this.
Say, I like green eggs and ham. I do. I like them, Sam, I am.
I sometimes play that to my kids at night, puts them right to sleep. I mean, Democrats here, though, in this certain case, I'm telling you, they are playing with fire. And we're seeing a little movement tonight by Chuck Schumer. We'll get to that in just a moment. A new CBS poll that was just released shows that even among those who support helping the DACA folks, Americans do not want to shut the government down to do so. And by the way, even with all the media disinformation out there about what chain migration is, more Americans think immigration should be based on merit more than family ties. Second cousin twice removed, aunt, uncle, you know the drill. Well, all of that is good news for Trump. So you know what I say? I say it's time to call their bluff on this. Republicans shouldn't be cowed at all. They shouldn't be worried about a government shutdown. I say let the Democrats take their stand and force a shutdown of the government for illegal immigrants. Then the American voters will finally see once and for all what the Democrats and amnesty fanatics really think. That the hopes and well-being and dreams of American citizens just aren't as important as the potential votes that they're going to get by an influx of illegal immigrants. And speaking of exposing the truth, Republicans in the House have finally seen the contents of that House intel report on the Fusion GPS dossier and the Mueller special counsel investigation. And apparently, it is a blockbuster. Sources are telling the Ingraham angle that the contents paint a disturbing picture of misdeeds and corruption inside the Obama FBI, which runs straight into the heart of the special counsel's office. And as of now, the report is secret, but many members of Congress are asking the Speaker, Speaker Ryan, to move to declassify the document and release its contents.
The intelligence memo that we have just read is so alarming that it must be immediately disclosed to the American people.
I couldn't agree more with that point. Speaker Ryan should cut through whatever bureaucratic protocol is necessary to see that the contents of this report are made public. Let's remove all doubt about what's in that report. And I'll tell you this, if it turns out that our FBI has been compromised and that American citizens have been targeted for surveillance for purely political reasons, or that the Obama Justice Department and maybe even some in the White House were in on it, boy, do the people have a right to know. And they have a right to know now, not 6 weeks from now and not 6 months from now. Remember, this dossier, this Fusion GPS dossier, was a campaign-generated document paid for by the Democrats. And if it was used to justify spying on anyone associated with Donald Trump, heads should roll. It's time to expose this entire circus to the sunlight. All of us should be able to trust federal law enforcement to be objective and certainly not filled with some vengeful political hackdom. We all deserve that. And in this case, of course, the president and anyone else in Robert Mueller's sights, they deserve it too. And that's the angle. Joining us now from Washington are two House members who have seen these classified documents, Raul Labrador of Idaho and Andy Biggs of Arizona. We're also joined by Fox News contributor Byron York, who has been extensively covering the Russia probe and this dossier issue. Gentlemen, it's great to see you tonight. Congressman Labrador, I want to start with you. I started getting calls. I'm here on the West Coast, but I started getting calls about this at about, I don't know, 6:30 in the morning Pacific time by congressmen who started to read this report. And they didn't reveal anything they weren't supposed to, but they said, Laura, whatever you do, the people have to know what is in this. This has to get declassified. Tell us how we can declassify it and whatever you can tell us about what's inside.
Great, Laura. Thanks for having me on your show. This is so important. And it's important for your viewers to know that the House has the authority to release this information. We don't have to declassify it. House Rule 10, and this is something that I think we're going to talk about a lot over the next few weeks. House Rule 10 allows the Select Committee to release the information based on the public interest. If they believe that the information is important enough to the public, that is of vital importance to the public, they can release it. So all we need to do is have a vote from the House, and the House Select Committee can do that. And I think we need to do that immediately. In the next week or so, I believe that the American people need to see everything that is in this document. I cannot tell you, Congressman Biggs can't tell you either about what we read today, but people will be shocked when they see this information.
Congressman Biggs, before we get to Byron, and we are going to hit on this immigration debate and the government shutdown and the Labrador's legislation, all that with Byron and you guys, but on this issue of the release of this report, is there any national security concern about releasing this document that you can see? Now, you've read it. Anything that Paul Ryan could point to avoid a move to declassify or a bureaucratic administrative move to release its contents?
I don't think so. I saw nothing in there that releasing it to the public would have any negative effect on our national interest. In fact, I think it's just the opposite. I think the national interest is harmed by keeping it a secret from the public. I think we have to be transparent. We have to get this out there. It is so vital, so important. And I think Americans are going to be as outraged as I know Raul and I are, and many of my colleagues who've read this. It has to get out. And I don't believe you can hide behind the shield of national security interest because the problem is just flipped on its head. And you'll notice it was Democrats in that committee that don't want it released. Not one voted to release it. Yeah.
All right, Byron, I want to go to you on this. I heard, again, 4 people, congressmen, this morning, and people very high up in the Justice Department and the FBI could very well lose their jobs if this report goes public. Do you believe that, given what we've heard from Glenn Simpson, who's the head of Fusion GPS, he said he's trying to like poo-poo the idea that, you know, they really moved on the dossier with the, you know, with the old administration. How explosive could this be?
Well, it could be pretty darned explosive. You and I are the 2 people here who haven't actually seen the document, but we've been hearing about this for quite a long while. What's been interesting is the investigators in the House have been kind of in a box for months. They were learning things of great public interest, but it was classified and they couldn't tell the public. And the institution that had the authority to declassify it, the Justice Department, was the institution they were investigating. I mean, it was just kind of a trap, and I think what we saw today was a kind of a brilliant effort to bust out of that, which was to use a maneuver to create a summary of their work and allow all members of the House to see it. So it wasn't just a small group of 13 people on the Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee. All of a sudden it was anybody in the House could go down and take a look at this, and we've been hearing them coming out and saying, wow, this is really, really big. And that is increasing the momentum to try this parliamentary maneuver that Representative Labrador and others have been talking about.
And they also, at the same time, I guess, Congressman Labrador, the Democrats were okay with releasing the Glenn Simpson testimony, correct? They were okay with that. We're going to play a snippet of that for our viewers. It's important for them to see what the founder of that Fusion GPS said. Let's watch. Oh, we don't. Oh, sorry, it's a full screen. Sorry about that, guys. He was asked, did the FBI ever reach out to you or Fusion GPS in relation to the matters that Mr. Steele informed them upon? He said no. You've never heard from anyone inside the U.S. government in relation to those matters, either the FBI or the Department of Justice? Answer, well, after the election, I mean, during the election, no. Well, what did you hear after, and from whom and when? I was asked to provide some information to the Justice Department. Question, by whom and when? It was by a prosecutor named Bruce Orr who was following up. Did Mr. Orr reach out to you? Or how did that shake out? Yeah, so in other words, Nellie Orr, who works for Fusion GPS, Bruce Orr ended up being the source of that.